It's all part of us. We can all choose love. It'll lift you up if you let it in. Let the healing begin.
Being me a Latino is, I think it's easier to communicate with my Latino students. But with my Caucasian students, it's like we have different backgrounds, and sometimes I feel like, can I do this or not? Because they feel that if I say hey or something, I'm too loud, because my culture is like that. So after we went to the touch therapy that we went, I was a little more aware that what I was doing in my classroom. So I have my experiment doing it in the classroom when I just staying in front of the classroom at the door, and my students just pass next to me, doing looking their phones, but never look at my face. So I got it. I say, oh, I'm going to stay in the middle. I'm not going to accept that they just pass. They have to look at me and give me 5. And I did that once, 2, 3 days, the whole week. Then they were the ones who were hugging me and giving 5. And also the relationship among my students were better. So, but at the end, they were giving me little cards. One of the moms cooked for me cookies and sent me the huge bunch of cookies, just telling me that she saw in her son very different things. So how the son was comfortable speaking, because the thing is that you have to make the students comfortable in your classroom, especially when they have to speak and they have to talk another language. It's not easy. It's not okay. When you are talking in your own language, easier to express all you think that you want, but when you are talking in another language, you have to feel comfortable. And that is my idea, to make them to feel comfortable. Being a teacher in this country has been a very good experience for me. I was also a teacher in my country, El Salvador, and I brought from there the culture of being a teacher for me. It's like in El Salvador, we are not just the teacher, not just the person who delivers knowledge. We are also like a mother in the school. It's the parents and the students trust you. You take care of them like they were your own kids. I don't teach just Spanish. I teach my culture. One of the most important things is that we say hello, we look at the eyes, and we hug, and we kiss each other. So, and it's natural for us to do that. Here, for me, was a huge difference when the students react in different ways, because they say, no, don't touch, don't do anything like that. But, you know, you don't go to the students and say hi and hug them. You have some relationship. You build some relationship with them.
I found that handshaking is one way you could connect with the students. I started it when I had a class that was kind of difficult and they weren't gelling together. So I thought, okay, we have to try something different. So every day I stood at the door with the door open, you know, and as they came in, I either shook their hands, gave them a high five, you know, some form of communication. Not all kids like to shake hands or touch, you know, again, you know, they were always told in elementary school, you know, keep your hands to yourself. So sometimes I would just give them a smile, you know, so whatever worked. But I found that doing that, the students really liked it. And they'd come in and by the second or third day, they'd be, you know, if I wasn't at the door, or the ones who were early would say, aren't you going to be at the door today? Aren't you going to shake hands with us? You had a real good read on the students. I could see if they were in a good mood that day, if they were happy, if somebody had, you know, seemed a little trouble that day. And then I kind of knew what was going on. So that really helped in classroom management. It really helped with the students communicating with each other. I think they kind of gelled because sometimes there'd be a little conversation at the door, and then other kids would overhear it, and then they'd maybe be consoling the person who came in and said something, they didn't do well on a test or whatever. So it just made them all more empathetic towards each other. So I found that worked really well. Okay. Touching in the classroom, again, can be a thing that could be good or bad, and it depends on how it's done. But a lot of times when, you know, I would go around and talk to students, or somebody is having, you know, difficulty with something, you know, I put my arm on their back, or just, you know, give them some encouragement and rub their back and say, oh, you're doing really well, you know, I'd just be rubbing their shoulders or whatever. And, you know, they seem to like that. You know, you can tell who you can do that to and who you can't. Sometimes you just put your arm on their shoulder and say, oh, you're doing a great job today, or you finally got that, or, you know, whatever, that was a really good question. And you can just tell that if your hand was there, if somebody, you know, was kind of stiffening, then that's not going to work for that kid, but you're going to still make eye contact with them, give them encouragement. You know, always try to find something that student likes and that's interested in, that you can talk to them about, you know, whether it's, you know, a hobby they have, or, you know, the way they like to walk to school or ride bicycles, you know, just something to talk to them so that they feel that, you know, you're really interested in them and they're an important person, even if it had nothing to do with your class. So the, you know, touching or putting your hand on a student's shoulder, when I first started teaching, you know, that was something the kids did. They would even come into class sometimes and, you know, hug each other, encourage each other. Someone just, you know, had a test or was having a bad day. But then as time went by, then later on, students didn't want other people to hug them or even, you know, put their hand on their shoulder, whatever, because, you know, they just felt it was creepy or it wasn't appropriate. And so, you know, it's an awkward thing that we're going to have to figure out what to do. How are we going to make people feel comfortable without making them feel creepy, but to make them feel that we care?
It's all part of us. We can all choose love. It'll lift you up if you let it in. Let the healing